It's wild that we still just have over 2 months until UFC 306 and we still don't know what the card looks like. With only 65 days to go, I can't understand why the UFC hasn't announced anything for the main card yet. They've been hinting at Valentina Shevchenko versus Alexa Grasso 3 for this card, but nothing is confirmed, and honestly, I'm starting to get a bit worried for this card. I'm worried that it won't be as stacked, especially since it's going to be at the Sphere in Las Vegas. And this is a big deal because Dana White has been hyping up this card, saying that it's going to be amazing and out of this world. They spend a lot of money to book this event, and Dana even mentioned that the UFC might never do it again. And if you didn't know, it's supposedly gonna be a Mexican independence card, and as someone who has Mexican heritage, I feel like it's appropriate to say that the card should feature Mexican fighters, but basing an entire card on a one-time pay-per-view like this for Mexican Independence Day, I don't know, man. I think we should go a different direction. And look, I don't mind Valentina Shevchenko versus Alexa Grasso 3 at the Sphere, but it shouldn't be the main event too. I just wanted to mention that real quick. And I want to see some of my fellow Mexicans on the card, like Brandon Moreno, Ortega, and more to fully capitalize and fully deliver. I feel like the UFC should feature other fighters who aren't Mexican to make this card even more stacked. I mean, it's a UFC pay-per-view at the Sphere. It has to be crazy stacked. It's a one-time opportunity. Now, with all that being said, that's why today I did a bit of matchmaking today, and I made the perfect card for UFC 306. And if the UFC cannot come close to how I made this card look, then what are we doing, man? What are we doing? So let's start with the main event. The main event has to be Max Holloway versus Ilia Topuria, man. This is the biggest fight you can do right now besides a McGregor fight in general. But my point is that I don't want to see this fight booked for UFC 307 or 308. Okay, I want to see it for 306 in the Sphere. This fight itself will sell an entire pay-per-view itself. And this fight is guaranteed to be fight of the night. I think this fight would be an absolute slobber knocker, and the cool thing is that no one really knows who's gonna win this fight, man. This fight is really unpredictable. Ilia's boxing power is incredible. I mean, we saw how he obliterated Volkman, and people want to see if he could be the first man to knock out Max Holloway. And Max has improved so much just from the volume fighting. He's more technical now. He has all those kicks in his arsenal that makes this fight even more interesting, since Ilia doesn't really check kicks, and he has shown to have problems with blocking kicks in general. I'm probably going to go with Max as an early prediction, by the way. Moving on, for the co-main event, we have to have Sean O'Malley versus Merab Dvalishvili. Now look, man, this has to be in there. I know what you guys are thinking. The UFC would never book Ilia and Max and this fight on the same card. And to that, I have to say, yeah, that's true. But as you could tell, the UFC just got a bit of that oil money from Saudi Arabia. You know what I'm saying? Talking about Rita season. So yeah, it's a huge fight. And this will make the card 10 times bigger. Now, this fight could easily main event this entire card. But my thought process is that there's a chance that it could be a boring fight. You know what I'm saying? There's a small chance that Merab can take over the fight with spamming takedowns until he wins a unanimous decision. I doubt it, but it's possible. I mean, after all, it's MMA. That's why I feel like you have to put Max versus Ilia as the main event. And I also want to mention, if you have all those 4 fighters all together, you could build up to the next super fight. Let's say if Ilia beats Max, right? And Sean beats Merab, we could potentially build up that fight in this card. I'm talking specifically about the press conference or in the lead-up interviews. So I think overall, those 2 fights need to be on this card, you know? And in general, I think Sean beats Merab. I think his reach and his footwork will make the difference in this fight, and I think he'll land one and end up knocking out Merab. Up next, as the third feature fight and the third championship match that would be on this card, is none other than Valentina Shevchenko versus Alexa Grasso 3. Now, to be real with you, I really don't prefer watching female fights compared to the guys, especially when it comes to the main card. But this fight is freaking cool, man. Their last 2 fights have been bangers, and this is going to be the one that finishes it all, the Trilogy. I just don't think that it should be the main event in this card. We all know the story of this fight. Grasso won the first fight, had a huge upset, being the first person to finish Valentina Shevchenko in the UFC. And then we all know about their second fight, which was quite controversial since it was a tie, which personally, looking back, I still believe Valentina Shevchenko should have won that fight. And regardless, this is a huge fight. One of the biggest female fights of all time, if you ask me. And I honestly think it will be perfect for the Sphere. So yeah, it's going to be a banger, and I can't wait to see this fight on this card. the fourth feature fight, which should actually be the second fight on the card. Anyway, sorry, this thing I made it a little bit confusing. But anyways, it should be Brian Ortega versus Aljamain Sterling. Now, that's a cool-ass fight, man. Aljo pretty much reinvented himself, as we saw in his last performance against Cater. He looked like a freaking monster in there with his takedowns, and the dude practically looked like a lightweight, man. The dude was huge, and it's going to be interesting to see if he can do that to Ortega, man, because we all know how dangerous T-City is on the map. Arguably one of the best grapplers in the UFC. Has tons of submissions in his arsenal. So I believe the grappling exchanges will be awesome for this fight, and I think it'll be a huge fight for both of them. And look, I know what you're thinking. Shouldn't the UFC book Aljo versus Evelev? They've been teasing it on Twitter, and to be honest, I have to say no one wants to see that. Evelev is one of the most boringest featherweights in the UFC. This fight that I booked is arguably more entertaining than that fight. As an early prediction, I would probably go with Aljo, man. And the first fight to start the main card has to be none other than Henry Cejudo versus Peter Yan. Look, I know Henry is trying to get the fight with Rob Font, but nah, I think he should fight Yan, because in his last fight, he looked absolutely terrible. And it looks like Henry still wants to go to the top, and he's running out of time, man. I mean, for a bantamweight, they rely a lot on their speed, and Henry's just getting older. So I think he should fight Yan, who's ranked number 3. And I would also argue if Henry beat Rob Font, it does nothing for him. I mean, it might build up some confidence, but still, that is still a long road to the title. And Yan is ranked number 3, and it's an exciting matchup. And to be honest, I don't think he needs to build confidence. I mean, the dude was once a double champion, and he's a gold medalist. Just come back fully prepared, no injuries, and just give it your all. Because at this point, you're not going to win the champion if you can't beat Yan. By the way, for this fight, my early prediction, I'm going with Peter Yan. And that's how the main card should look like. And for some of the prelim fights, I would put on Dominic Reyes versus Anthony Smith. I think that fight is perfect for both guys, since Dominic just got his confidence back from, recently knocking out that one dude. And for Anthony Smith, it's kind of do or die here, man, facing somebody like Dominic Reyes. So hopefully this fight should motivate him. But honestly, if this fight does get booked, I'm going to go with Dominic Reyes. Another fight that would be cool is Yair Rodriguez versus Dan Ige. Now, that's a badass fight, man. And it's probably going to be one of the fight of the nights, since Dan loves a good slobber knocker, man. And Yair doesn't have to worry about getting taken down. This will just be a pure stand-up match. And I think this is a fight that should be on the prelims. Arguably, you could put this fight on the main card, but this fight is supposed to show that this card means business, that it's going to be really exciting. So yeah, I think it's perfect for the prelims. Another fight you can also add to the prelims is none other than Jonathan Martinez versus Cody Garbrandt. That would be an awesome fight, man. And you can also add Raul Rosa Jr. versus Rani Yahya. Now, you put that all together, whatever you want. Like, it doesn't matter how you put that entire prelim card together. That's my point. That thing is going to be freaking stacked from top to bottom. So this is how the entire card looks like from top to bottom. Just as a reminder, we have Ilia Topuria versus Max Holloway as the main event. And then for the co-main event, we have Sean O'Malley versus Merab Dvalishvili. And for the third featured fight, we have Grasso versus Valentina Shevchenko 3. And for the second fight on the main card, you have Aljo versus Ortega. And for the first fight on the card, you have Henry versus Yan. Now that is the Sphere card. But yeah, what do you guys think of my card? Let me know in the comments down below. And do you think the UFC will come anywhere near how good I made this card today? I hope so, but in the same time, I kind of doubt it. But anyways, guys, I hope you enjoyed the video. And if you guys did, please leave a like. And don't forget to subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. And like always, guys, I'll see you on my next one.